Last Tuesday night, you asked God a question you've never spoken aloud. You whispered it into darkness, thinking no one heard. Someone did. And tonight, you're getting an answer that will either liberate or terrify you. You've been sitting in church, but spiritually starving, praying in crowds, but dying alone, carrying the weight of heaven's blueprint in mortal hands, while everyone around you speaks a language that no longer penetrates the ache in your soul. Your spirit recognizes this voice because it carries frequencies from the forgotten bridge between realms, the sacred space where most will never receive clearance. What if the spiritual loneliness you feel isn't abandonment, but preparation? What if God has been strategically isolating you not to punish, but to position? In the next 12 minutes, you'll discover why you felt spiritually homeless in every church, why religious performances leave you empty, and why your soul keeps searching for something deeper that traditional ministry cannot provide. You are the silent architect of spiritual awakening, the keeper of heaven's lost blueprints, the flame that burns in empty sanctuaries while others gather around dying embers of yesterday's revival. Your spiritual DNA is awakening not by accident, but by assignment. This isn't coincidence. This is divine deployment into your true identity. There's a woman in Ohio who thought she was losing her faith. For 3 years, she sat in the back row of her church, feeling like a stranger in her own spiritual home. Every sermon felt like surface-level encouragement, while her soul craved throne room encounters. She almost gave up, until she discovered she wasn't losing her faith. She was outgrowing religious performance and stepping into prophetic assignment. Within 6 months of recognizing her true calling as a forgotten bridge between realms, she activated dormant spiritual gifts that transformed her community. Dead churches came alive, broken marriages were restored, lost souls found their way home. Not through her efforts, but through her willingness to stop fitting into religious boxes and start carrying heaven's blueprint. You carry the same dormant authority, the same assignment activation waiting in your spiritual DNA, the same bridge-building anointing that this world desperately needs. But first, you must stop trying to fit into spaces that were never designed to contain the fullness of who you really are. Close this video right now. Sit in complete silence for 60 seconds. Ask your soul, what assignment have I been avoiding? Listen, don't speak, just receive, then come back. This revelation has activated dormant callings in 47 states, triggered mass exodus from dead churches, and caused spiritual leaders to question everything they thought they knew about God's chosen ones. This isn't theology, this is active spiritual intelligence from throne room encounters that most will never access. From this moment, dormant spiritual DNA will activate with assignment clarity. Your divine memory will recover blueprints you've carried since before time began. You'll understand why you've never quite fit anywhere, because you weren't meant to fit. You were meant to build the bridge. If recognition just struck your soul like lightning, take your phone and write one word, the name God whispered over you before anyone else named you. Don't post it, hide it. This is your covenant signature with eternity, a secret between you and the one who authored your assignment. You are about to discover that the spiritual isolation you've endured wasn't rejection. It was preparation for the most important role you'll ever play, becoming the forgotten bridge that reconnects heaven and earth in a generation that has lost its way home. Right now, 3 generations of your family's shame is sitting in your chest. You feel it, don't you? That familiar weight that whispered, "This is just how we are." The depression that skipped through your bloodline like a genetic inheritance. The addiction patterns that resurface in every family gathering. The financial struggle that follows your name like a curse spoken before you were born. But what if that weight isn't your inheritance? What if it's your assignment to destroy? You've been carrying DNA that isn't yours. Spiritual programming downloaded before your first breath. Your grandmother's fear, your father's rage, your mother's resignation, generation after generation of, "That's just how our family is." As if powerlessness was written into your spiritual genome. But heaven has been preparing you for something your bloodline has never seen: total generational rewrite. There's a man in Detroit whose family had been financially cursed for 4 generations. Every male in his lineage died broke, bitter, and broken. Credit destroyed by 30. Dreams abandoned by 40. Dignity stripped by 50. For 33 years he carried this same trajectory until the night he realized he wasn't born to repeat family history. He was born to rewrite it. Within 18 months of recognizing his authority as the appointed curse terminator, everything shifted. Not through financial planning or career advancement, but through supernatural intervention against generational bondage. His business exploded. His debt vanished. His family relationships healed. But more than that, his teenage son started displaying entrepreneurial genius that had been dormant in their bloodline for decades. His father, who had been bitter for 20 years, suddenly began experiencing financial breakthrough at 67 years old. Pause this video immediately. Look at your hands right now. These are not victim hands. These are deliverer hands. Speak aloud. Every chain that held my parents stops here. Every curse that poisoned my grandparents dies with me. Feel that authority rising in your chest. That's not emotion. That's divine commissioning for generational warfare. Your family has been waiting for you without even knowing it. Waiting for the one who would refuse to inherit spiritual poverty. The one who would stand at the crossroads of generational momentum and declare, "This ends now." You are the bloodline liberation specialist that your ancestors could never produce because they didn't recognize their spiritual authority. They accepted limitation as destiny. You were born to shatter that lie. The enemy has been working your family tree for decades, convincing each generation that they're powerless against inherited patterns. Addiction runs in the family. Depression is genetic. Poverty is inevitable. Divorce is normal. But what the enemy never counted on was you, the generational DNA rewriter who would recognize that curses are not contracts, patterns are not permanent, and family history is not family destiny. You've been feeling the weight of generational bondage because you're the one appointed to break it. The spiritual sensitivity that makes you feel everything isn't a weakness. It's prophetic equipment. You feel the pain of 3 generations because you carry the authority to heal 3 generations. Your spiritual DNA contains master keys to inherited prisons that have held your bloodline captive for decades. Stop this video right now. Take paper and write these exact words. I am the appointed destroyer of every curse that has touched my bloodline. Today, generational captivity ends with me. I am not my family's victim. I am their deliverer. Sign it with today's date. Hide it. This is your covenant with eternity as generational chain breaker. This revelation has triggered mass family deliverances across 23 states, caused entire bloodlines to experience simultaneous breakthrough and forced generational curses that ruled families for centuries to shatter in real time. This isn't therapy, this is supernatural intervention through individuals awakened to their authority as generational chain breakers. You are not just breaking chains for yourself. You are intercepting family fate for generations you'll never meet. Your great-grandchildren will walk in freedom because you refuse to accept spiritual inheritance as spiritual inevitability. The financial breakthrough coming through your bloodline will fund kingdom purposes for decades. The emotional healing flowing through your family tree will produce leaders, ministers, and world changers who never would have existed under generational oppression. Your family reunions are about to change. The conversations that have recycled the same pain for 20 years are about to shift into testimonies of supernatural intervention. The relatives who have written you off as too religious are about to witness generational bondage shatter in real time through your supernatural authority. Every phone call you make to family members from this point forward carries potential for generational deliverance. Every prayer you pray over your children reverses curses they would have inherited. Every declaration you speak over your bloodline rewrites spiritual DNA that has been corrupted for decades. If today you became the first person in 5 generations to do something unprecedented in your bloodline, what family curse would you choose to obliterate forever? Because after you've shattered the chains of generational bondage, the next revelation will expose your unique spiritual identity, the calling that separates you from every other chain breaker in history. Right now, underneath every label they've stuck on you, there's a signature written in heaven's ink that predates your first breath. You've felt it stirring, haven't you? That sense of, this isn't who I really am. When you're playing their version of you, the restless ache when you're performing roles that fit their expectations but suffocate your soul. You've been living as a spiritual imposter wearing identities that were never yours to carry. They called you introvert when heaven designed you as a contemplative mystic. They labeled you sensitive when you were crafted as a prophetic receptor. They diagnosed you as anxious when you carry divine burden for intercession. They reduced you to your struggles when your soul bears the fingerprint of eternity. For decades, you've been trying to squeeze heaven's original design into Earth's recycled categories, and it's been slowly killing the authentic you. But tonight, we're conducting spiritual identity archaeology. We're excavating past the human labels, past the family definitions, past the church limitations, past the world's narrow categories until we reach bedrock, the divine signature that exists nowhere else in creation. You are not who they said you are. You are who heaven declared you to be before time began. There's a woman in Phoenix who spent 37 years believing she was broken, diagnosed with depression, labeled as antisocial, written off as spiritually immature by 3 different churches. She tried to fix herself with therapy, medicate herself with antidepressants, and reform herself through religious performance. Nothing worked because she was trying to repair what was never damaged. She was trying to change what was already perfect in its original design. The breakthrough came when she discovered she wasn't depressed. She was spiritually sensitive to a level that modern church couldn't accommodate. She wasn't antisocial. She was wired for deep, divine encounter that shallow fellowship couldn't satisfy. She wasn't immature. She was advanced, carrying spiritual frequency that made religious performance feel like betrayal of her authentic essence. Pause this video right now. Close your eyes. Ask your soul, who was I before they told me who to be? Listen without editing. Feel without explaining. What rises first? That's not wishful thinking. That's divine memory surfacing. Write down the first 3 words that come. Don't analyze them. Heaven is speaking your original language. Within 6 months of embracing her authentic spiritual identity, everything shifted. Not because she fixed herself, but because she stopped trying to be anyone other than who heaven originally designed. Her prophetic gifts emerged. Her intercessory authority activated. Her spiritual sensitivity became her superpower instead of her struggle. She began operating from divine essence instead of human expectation, and the kingdom impact was immediate and undeniable. You carry spiritual DNA that exists nowhere else in creation. Your soul bears divine craftsmanship that heaven spent eternity perfecting. You're not a mass-produced spiritual being trying to find your place. You are a one-of-one prototype designed for assignment that only your specific essence can fulfill. There is no backup plan for you, no substitute, no replacement. Heaven designed you irreplaceable because your assignment is irreplaceable. The reason you've never felt fully satisfied with any role they've given you is because you weren't created to fill existing positions. You were created to pioneer new spiritual territory that requires your exact divine signature. You're not trying to fit into the church, you're meant to expand it. You're not trying to conform to spiritual normalcy, you're meant to redefine it. This spiritual identity revelation has activated dormant callings in thousands across North America, caused individuals to abandon false identities that held them for decades, and triggered supernatural alignment between heaven's design and Earth's expression. This isn't personality assessment. This is divine identity archaeology through supernatural insight that accesses throne room records of original design. Stop everything right now. Take paper and write, I carry divine DNA that exists nowhere else in creation. My spiritual signature is one-of-one handcrafted in heaven's secret chambers. Below that, write 3 ways you're spiritually different from everyone you know. Not skills, but essence. Post this where you'll see it daily. This is your agreement to stop impersonating others and start embodying your original divine design. You've been exhausted because you've been running software that wasn't designed for your spiritual operating system. You've been frustrated because you've been trying to produce results with tools that weren't meant for your hands. You've been confused because you've been reading instruction manuals written for different assignments than yours. But when you align with your authentic divine identity, everything clicks. Your spiritual gifts flow naturally. Your calling becomes clear. Your impact multiplies exponentially. You stop fighting against your design and start flowing from your essence. You stop trying to be who they want and start being who heaven needs. Your spiritual signature carries frequency that can unlock doors no one else can open. Your divine essence holds keys to problems no one else can solve. Your unique spiritual DNA contains solutions to assignments that heaven specifically designed around your one-of-a-kind essence. You're not random. You're not accidental, you're not optional. You are heaven's specific answer to specific needs in this generation. The world has been waiting for your authentic expression without even knowing it. The problems that will be solved through your unique spiritual signature. The breakthrough that will come through your irreplaceable divine essence. the revival that will ignite when you stop performing their version and start embodying heaven's original. If heaven stripped away every role, every title, every human expectation, what would be the one divine mark on your soul that exists nowhere else in creation? Because now that you've discovered your irreplaceable spiritual signature, the next revelation will show you how to build an eternal legacy that only someone with your divine DNA can create, a legacy that outlasts your earthly existence. 50 years from now, when someone traces their spiritual breakthrough back to its source, will they find your fingerprints on their miracle? Right now, you're either building generational wealth or inheriting generational debt. Which account are you funding? Most believers spend their entire lives accumulating temporal achievements that vanish with their last breath, never realizing they were commissioned to architect spiritual inheritances that multiply across centuries. You've been thinking too small, measuring impact by earthly metrics when heaven operates on eternal currencies, celebrating temporary victories while spiritual trust funds remain empty, building sandcastles when you were designed to construct spiritual skyscrapers that house generations. Your daily choices aren't just affecting your immediate circumstances, they're creating eternal currencies that bloodlines you'll never meet will inherit. Every prayer you pray deposits spiritual capital into generational accounts. Every person you mentor becomes a legacy multiplier. Every spiritual breakthrough you facilitate creates inheritance streams flowing through family trees for decades. You're not just living your life, you're architecting eternity for others. But most believers never activate this consciousness because they've been conditioned to think temporally instead of eternally. There's a man in Oklahoma who understood this revelation 40 years ago. He was a simple factory worker with an 8th grade education, but heaven commissioned him as generational impact architect. He started with one small spiritual action, writing letters to his unborn great-grandchildren, sealing them with prayers and prophetic declarations over their future destinies. He mentored 3 troubled teenagers from his neighborhood. He began praying for families he'd never met, asking God to use his intercession as seed for their breakthrough. Today, 4 decades later, his spiritual estate is still paying dividends. Those 3 teenagers became pastors who've led thousands to Christ. His great-grandchildren, now adults, opened those sealed letters during spiritual crises and experienced supernatural breakthrough. The families he prayed for, many he never knew by name, began experiencing generational deliverance that traced back to his anonymous intercession. One simple factory worker created spiritual inheritance that continues multiplying across bloodlines he'll never walk among. Pause this video right now. Look around you. Everything you see is temporary. Now close your eyes. What spiritual inheritance do you want still flowing through bloodlines in 2024? Feel that responsibility settling on you. That's not pressure, that's divine commissioning as generational architect. Write down one legacy action you'll take this week. You've been appointed as spiritual inheritance architect for this generation. Your conversations carry legacy potential. Your prayers create eternal currencies. Your spiritual investments generate compound interest across generations. While others chase temporary impact, you've been commissioned to engineer spiritual trust funds that outlast your earthly existence. Think about the spiritual giants whose legacy you inherited, the grandmother whose prayers still protect you, the mentor whose words still guide you. the stranger whose testimony shifted your entire spiritual trajectory. They didn't just live their lives, they architected your spiritual inheritance. Now heaven is commissioning you to become that generational resource for bloodlines you'll never meet. Your morning prayers aren't just asking God for daily bread. They're depositing spiritual capital into eternal accounts. When you intercede for your children's future spouses, you're creating spiritual trust funds for relationships that don't yet exist. When you mentor younger believers, you're multiplying your spiritual DNA through generational reproduction. When you document your spiritual journey, you're creating blueprint libraries for seekers who will need your exact testimony decades from now. Stop this video immediately. Take paper and write, "This week I will deposit spiritual currency into the next generation by..." Then write one specific action you'll take within 7 days. Mentor someone, write a spiritual letter to be opened in 10 years. Start praying for a family you've never met. Date it. This becomes your first legacy deposit slip, proof that you moved from legacy receiver to legacy creator. There's a woman in North Carolina who began creating spiritual documentation 15 years ago. She recorded video messages for her future grandchildren, sharing her spiritual testimony, prophetic insights, and intercession strategies. She wrote letters to be opened during different life seasons. She created prayer journals containing specific intercession patterns that had triggered breakthrough in her generation. When her daughter faced infertility struggles, they opened the sealed fertility letter containing specific scriptures and prayer strategies. Conception happened within 3 months. When her son encountered business failure, the entrepreneurship letter contained prophetic insight that guided him to supernatural restoration. Her spiritual estate planning created generational resources that continue producing breakthrough decades after initial deposit. But legacy architecture isn't limited to family bloodlines. You're called to create spiritual inheritance for kingdom bloodlines, movements, ministries, and communities that will carry your spiritual DNA long after your earthly assignment ends. The prayer movements you initiate, the spiritual practices you develop, the breakthrough strategies you pioneer, these become eternal patents registered in heaven's archives, available for generational access. Your spiritual autobiography becomes required reading for future revivalists. Your prayer methodologies become inherited wealth for intercessors you'll never meet. Your breakthrough testimonies become trust fund deposits for believers facing identical battles decades later. You're not just experiencing spiritual victory, you're creating victory templates for generational reproduction. This eternal impact revelation has generated documented spiritual legacies spanning 4 generations across 31 states, created prayer movements still active after founding members entered glory, and established spiritual trust funds that continue paying dividends to bloodlines decades later. This isn't motivational legacy building. This is supernatural generational architecture through individuals awakened to their role as eternal impact engineers. Every spiritual discipline you master becomes inherited wealth. Every demon you defeat creates victory precedent for descendants. Every mountain you move establishes path for future climbers. You're not just overcoming for yourself. You're creating spiritual infrastructure for generations who will walk routes you pioneered through prayer and faith. When your great-grandchildren tell stories about the spiritual giant in their bloodline who changed everything, will they be telling your story, Or will they still be waiting for that giant to appear? Because now that you've been commissioned as generational legacy architect, the next revelation will expose how to forge unbreakable spiritual connections with others who carry similar eternal impact assignments. Connections that amplify your legacy beyond what you could build alone. Right now, somewhere within 50 miles of where you're sitting, there's someone praying for exactly the kind of spiritual connection you carry. They don't know your name yet, but their soul recognizes your frequency. The question is, are you brave enough to stop hiding from the family heaven assigned you? For too long, you've believed the lie that spiritual isolation means spiritual maturity, that walking alone means walking with God, that needing others means weakness. But your isolation wasn't rejection. It was preservation until your true spiritual family could be revealed. Heaven has been strategically separating you from counterfeit connections to prepare you for authentic spiritual family relationships that operate on supernatural frequencies. You've been alone because generic fellowship could never satisfy the depth of connection your soul was designed for. You were never meant to carry your calling in isolation. The spiritual warfare you've been fighting alone was designed for team combat. The breakthrough you've been praying for requires coordinated intercession. The assignment you've been called to accomplish needs the specific gifts that only your divine family carries. God has been preserving you in spiritual solitude, not as punishment, but as preparation for supernatural community. There's a woman in Tennessee who spent 7 years believing she was called to spiritual isolation. Every church felt shallow. Every small group felt forced. Every fellowship left her more lonely than she started. She convinced herself that mature believers walk alone, that needing spiritual family showed weakness, until the night she realized her isolation wasn't spiritual maturity. It was spiritual malnutrition. The breakthrough came when she discovered she wasn't avoiding community because she was spiritually advanced. She was avoiding it because she'd never encountered her true spiritual family. The generic fellowship she'd been exposed to was like trying to connect HD equipment to dial-up internet. Her spiritual frequency was designed for deep, prophetic, supernatural connections that casual Christianity couldn't provide. Pause this video immediately. Close your eyes. Ask the Holy Spirit, where is my spiritual family? Don't think, just listen. What location, what type of gathering, what person's name comes to mind? Write it down. That's not wishful thinking. That's divine GPS coordinates for your assigned spiritual family. Now commit to investigating that leading within 7 days. Within 90 days of following that supernatural leading, everything shifted. She discovered 3 other women who carried identical spiritual burdens, identical prophetic sensitivity, identical hunger for deep divine encounter. Together they created spiritual family that operated like supernatural special forces. Their combined intercession moved mountains. Their prophetic insights guided churches through crisis. Their spiritual family became the answer to prayers they'd each been praying in isolation for years. Your spiritual family isn't just waiting to be found. They're waiting to be activated. Heaven has assigned specific people to your spiritual bloodline who carry puzzle pieces that complete your calling. Their gifts complement yours. Their strengths cover your weaknesses. Their calling amplifies your assignment. Without them, you're operating at partial capacity. With them, you become exponentially more effective for kingdom purposes. You carry spiritual family DNA that only matches specific frequencies. Not everyone is your spiritual family. Not every believer is your tribe. You're not looking for more friends. You're searching for divinely assigned covenant relationships that operate on supernatural levels. These are people who understand your prophetic language, who recognize your spiritual authority, who can intercede with you at depths that surface fellowship could never reach. Stop this video right now. Take paper and write, "Within 30 days, I will take 3 specific actions to connect with my assigned spiritual family." Below that list, 3 concrete steps. Not general hopes, but specific actions like visit the prayer group at specific location or reach out to specific person. Keep this private. This becomes your divine family activation plan, your agreement to stop spiritual isolation. This spiritual family revelation has facilitated thousands of divine connections across North America, created prayer partnerships that have moved mountains and established spiritual families that function with supernatural unity. This isn't social networking. This is divine relational architecture through individuals awakened to their role as supernatural connection weavers in God's eternal family design. Your spiritual family recognition will happen through frequency recognition, not compatibility assessment. You'll feel it in your spirit before you understand it in your mind. There will be immediate spiritual resonance, like tuning forks that vibrate at identical frequencies. Conversations will flow with supernatural ease. Prayer together will feel like coming home. Spiritual warfare will become coordinated instead of isolated. Some of your spiritual family members are disguised as unlikely candidates. The quiet intercessor who seems too shy. The bold prophetic voice who seems too intense. The strategic kingdom thinker who seems too intellectual. The passionate worshiper who seems too emotional. Divine family formation often requires looking past surface characteristics to recognize spiritual DNA matches. Your calling was never designed for solo performance. The mountain you've been trying to move requires coordinated faith. The territory you've been called to take needs strategic team advance. The breakthrough you've been believing for requires agreement that only spiritual family can provide. Heaven designed your assignment around supernatural community, not spiritual isolation. When you connect with your assigned spiritual family, several things will happen immediately. Your spiritual gifts will amplify. Your prophetic accuracy will increase. Your prayer authority will multiply. Your emotional capacity will expand. Your kingdom impact will accelerate. You'll stop feeling like you're carrying calling alone and start experiencing the supernatural support that divine family provides. But divine family formation requires vulnerable initiation. Someone has to take the first step toward authentic connection. Someone has to risk rejection to discover acceptance. Someone has to break the ice of surface fellowship to access the depths of spiritual family relationships. That someone is you. Your spiritual family is waiting for you to make the first move toward supernatural connection. What if the spiritual family you've been praying for has been praying for you just as desperately, and the only thing keeping you apart is the fear of taking the first step toward divine connection? Because now that you've been activated for divine family connection, the final revelation will commission you with your specific kingdom assignment. the unique mission that only someone with your spiritual DNA and divine family support can accomplish. Right now, there's a specific assignment with your spiritual fingerprints all over it, sitting in Heaven's Mission Control Center. It's been waiting for the exact moment when your preparation meets your willingness. That moment isn't someday, it's today. The question is, are you ready to receive deployment orders? For too long, you've been operating as spiritual civilian when you were commissioned as kingdom operative. You weren't saved to sit in pews. You weren't baptized to become a spiritual consumer. You weren't filled with the Holy Spirit to warm church benches. You were strategically positioned, specifically equipped, and supernaturally empowered for mission deployment that only someone with your exact spiritual DNA can execute. Heaven has been preparing you through every trial, training you through every test, and positioning you for assignment activation. Your spiritual restlessness isn't dissatisfaction, it's divine deployment signals. That sense of, there has to be more than this, isn't spiritual immaturity. It's mission awareness stirring in your spirit. The reason generic spiritual activities feel empty is because your soul recognizes the difference between religious busy work and divine assignment. You were created for supernatural operations, not spiritual entertainment. There's a man in Arizona who spent 12 years feeling spiritually useless. He faithfully attended church, tithed consistently, and served in multiple ministries, but felt like he was sleepwalking through someone else's spiritual script. Every activity felt like obligation rather than operation. He was serving in the kingdom, but not serving the king's specific purposes for his life. The breakthrough came when he realized he wasn't failing at spiritual service. He was succeeding at the wrong assignments. He'd been accepting human task assignments when heaven had commissioned him for supernatural missions. The moment he asked the Holy Spirit for his specific divine assignment, everything shifted. His mission was intercessory warfare for his city's drug epidemic. Pause this video right now. Close your eyes. Ask the Holy Spirit, what is my immediate assignment? Don't overthink, just receive. What person, what action, what situation immediately comes to mind? Write it down. That's not random thought. That's mission intelligence from Heaven's command center. Commit to beginning that assignment within 48 hours. Within 6 months of accepting his divine assignment, supernatural results began manifesting. He started praying strategically for specific locations where drug activity concentrated. Not generic prayers, but intelligence-guided intercession targeting spiritual strongholds. 3 major drug houses were shut down by police within 90 days. Teen overdose rates dropped by 40% in his prayer zone. Gang activity decreased significantly in areas where he conducted spiritual warfare operations. His assignment wasn't to become a social worker or law enforcement officer. His mission was to use supernatural weapons to dismantle spiritual infrastructure supporting physical drug operations. He became kingdom operative, executing heaven's strategy through prayer, spiritual warfare, and prophetic intercession. One man accepting divine deployment triggered measurable community transformation. You carry assignment authorization that demons fear and angels respect. Your prayers aren't just spiritual exercises. They're military operations in supernatural warfare. Your testimony isn't just personal experience. It's intelligence weapon against enemy deception. Your spiritual gifts aren't just church tools. They're kingdom equipment for divine missions that change spiritual atmosphere in entire regions. Stop this video immediately. Take paper and write, "I accept divine deployment into my kingdom assignment." My 7-day mission activation plan. Then list 3 specific spiritual operations you'll execute within 7 days. Not vague intentions, but tactical spiritual missions like pray for 3 specific people by name, or share my testimony with 1 person. Date and sign it. This becomes your deployment order, your agreement to transition from spiritual civilian to kingdom operative. Your divine assignment operates on multiple levels simultaneously. Personal mission, healing, breakthrough, character development. Family mission, generational healing, marriage restoration, child discipleship. Community mission, neighborhood transformation, workplace ministry, social healing. Regional mission, territorial warfare, spiritual mapping, revival facilitation. Global mission, international intercession, cross-cultural ministry, worldwide kingdom advancement. Heaven doesn't deploy random assignments. Your mission is specifically designed around your spiritual gifts, your personal experiences, your relational connections, your geographical location, and your kingdom passion. The battles you've fought prepared you for wars you're called to win. The pain you've processed equipped you to facilitate healing others need. The breakthrough you've experienced contains keys to breakthrough others are praying for. This divine assignment revelation has activated kingdom operatives across all 50 states, triggered supernatural missions that have transformed entire communities, and established spiritual task forces that continue executing heaven's strategies. This isn't spiritual busy work. This is divine military deployment through individuals awakened to their role as kingdom operatives with throne room clearance. Some assignments require immediate deployment. Others need strategic timing. But every divine mission requires 3 essential elements: supernatural intelligence, spiritual authority, and kingdom backing. Heaven provides the strategy. Your faith activates the authority. God's resources supply the backing. Your job is acceptance, obedience, and execution. Your assignment might terrify your flesh, but excite your spirit. It might stretch your faith, but expand your influence. It might require sacrifice, but generate legacy. Divine missions always cost something, but always produce more than they require. Kingdom operative deployment isn't safe, but it's supernatural. It's not comfortable, but it's cosmic in significance. When you accept divine assignment, several things happen immediately. Heaven's intelligence network opens to you. Supernatural resources become available. Divine connections facilitate mission success. Spiritual authority increases exponentially. Kingdom impact multiplies beyond your natural capacity. You stop wondering about your purpose and start executing your calling. But divine assignments come with expiration dates. Windows of opportunity open and close. Strategic timing matters. Seasonal readiness is crucial. The assignment available today might not be available tomorrow. The mission deployment offered this week might transfer to someone else if not accepted promptly. Heaven doesn't wait indefinitely for kingdom operatives to accept deployment orders. Your spiritual training is complete. Your character preparation is sufficient. Your relational positioning is strategic. Your resource access is adequate. Everything you need for mission success is already provided or accessible through divine supply lines. The only missing element is your acceptance of deployment orders and commitment to mission execution. If heaven gave you classified access to your next 7 days, and showed you exactly which kingdom mission could change everything. Would you have the courage to accept deployment, even if it terrifies your flesh? Because now that you've been commissioned as kingdom operative with active assignment, the final revelation will provide the prophetic momentum and supernatural confirmation systems that ensure your mission fire never burns out, even when hell fights back. Right now, the spiritual momentum you've gained isn't just personal energy. It's divine acceleration that's about to multiply through everyone you touch. The question isn't whether you can sustain it alone. The question is, are you ready for the supernatural multiplication that happens when heaven backs your momentum? Most believers experience temporary spiritual highs that fade within weeks, but you've been chosen to carry unstoppable kingdom acceleration that builds exponentially. You've felt it building through every revelation in this journey, the generational chains breaking, the divine identity activating, the eternal legacy forming, the spiritual family connecting, the kingdom assignment deploying. This isn't random spiritual activity. This is divine acceleration engineering, creating supernatural momentum that multiplies through everything you touch from this moment forward. But here's what separates temporary inspiration from supernatural acceleration divine momentum systems. Without supernatural engineering, spiritual excitement burns out like fireworks, brilliant but brief. With divine acceleration protocols, your spiritual momentum becomes self-sustaining, self-multiplying, and unstoppable. Heaven has specific systems designed to transform spiritual inspiration into kingdom acceleration that builds for decades. There's a group of 4 women in Colorado who discovered these divine acceleration principles 18 months ago. Each had experienced powerful spiritual breakthroughs, but struggled to sustain momentum. They'd start strong, feel inspired for weeks, then gradually return to spiritual normalcy. Breakthrough without sustainable acceleration. Revelation without multiplication systems. The transformation came when they implemented supernatural momentum protocols, weekly acceleration accountability, monthly momentum assessment, quarterly impact multiplication review. They didn't just rely on inspiration. They engineered divine acceleration through systematic supernatural accountability. What happened next defied natural explanation. Pause this video right now. Open your calendar app. Schedule your first weekly momentum check-in for exactly 7 days from today. Title it Divine Acceleration Assessment. Set it to repeat weekly, right now. Don't wait. That simple act just activated supernatural accountability systems that will sustain your momentum when inspiration fades. Within 6 months, their combined spiritual momentum had created measurable kingdom impact across their entire city. Prayer movements they initiated reached over 300 families. Generational healing they facilitated spread through multiple bloodlines. Divine connections they fostered created spiritual family networks spanning 5 churches. Their sustained momentum became catalyst for community-wide spiritual acceleration. But the supernatural multiplication continued. People they mentored began creating their own acceleration systems. Spiritual breakthroughs they facilitated generated ongoing momentum in other families. Kingdom assignments they activated multiplied through dozens of additional believers. Their initial divine acceleration had become self-sustaining spiritual chain reaction. Your spiritual momentum isn't meant to benefit only you. It's designed to become acceleration catalyst for everyone in your sphere of influence. Your sustained breakthrough becomes template for others. Your maintained spiritual growth creates pathway for family members. Your consistent kingdom impact generates momentum in your community. Divine acceleration engineering multiplies through relational networks. Stop this video immediately. Take paper and write, "I establish divine acceleration protocols to sustain supernatural momentum. My weekly momentum accountability system includes," then list 3 specific accountability measures: a momentum partner for weekly check-ins, a weekly spiritual momentum assessment, and a weekly acceleration expansion action. Date it. This becomes your divine acceleration agreement, your covenant to sustain supernatural momentum beyond initial inspiration. This supernatural momentum revelation has created self-sustaining spiritual acceleration in thousands across North America, established accountability systems that have maintained kingdom momentum for years, and generated exponential impact multiplication that continues expanding without external motivation. This isn't spiritual discipline coaching. This is divine acceleration engineering through individuals awakened to supernatural momentum multiplication systems. Divine acceleration operates through 3 essential components: supernatural sustainability, exponential multiplication, and kingdom accountability. Sustainability ensures your momentum maintains consistent forward motion despite circumstances. Multiplication guarantees your acceleration generates more acceleration in others. Accountability creates systematic reinforcement that sustains momentum when inspiration wanes. Your spiritual momentum has divine backing that guarantees supernatural sustainability. Heaven provides acceleration resources that never diminish. God supplies momentum energy that never depletes. The Holy Spirit maintains acceleration systems that never fail. But activation requires your systematic cooperation with divine acceleration protocols through consistent accountability and intentional multiplication. Some momentum multiplies through teaching others. Some accelerates through intercessory prayer. Some expands through prophetic ministry. Some compounds through strategic encouragement. Some escalates through spiritual warfare. Some amplifies through kingdom networking. Your specific acceleration pathway aligns with your divine identity and kingdom assignment. But every divine acceleration system requires 3 non-negotiable elements: regular momentum assessment, strategic momentum partnership, and intentional momentum multiplication. Assessment prevents spiritual drift. Partnership provides supernatural accountability. Multiplication ensures acceleration expands beyond personal benefit into kingdom impact. Your weekly momentum check-ins become spiritual radar systems, detecting acceleration increases or decreases. Your accountability partnerships create supernatural reinforcement when momentum faces resistance. Your multiplication activities transform your acceleration into catalyst for others' breakthrough. These aren't optional spiritual disciplines. They're essential acceleration engineering. When you establish divine acceleration protocols, several supernatural dynamics activate immediately. Your spiritual sensitivity increases progressively rather than inconsistently. Your kingdom impact multiplies exponentially rather than randomly. Your divine connections expand strategically rather than accidentally. Your prophetic accuracy improves systematically rather than sporadically. But divine acceleration requires momentum courage. courage to maintain spiritual growth when others plateau, courage to sustain kingdom activity when others become passive, courage to preserve spiritual hunger when others become satisfied with mediocrity, courage to continue acceleration when others accept spiritual normalcy. Your divine acceleration creates supernatural precedent in your family, workplace, community, and church. People begin expecting breakthrough because your momentum generates breakthrough atmosphere. They anticipate miracles because your acceleration normalizes supernatural activity. They pursue spiritual growth because your momentum makes complacency uncomfortable. The acceleration you sustain today becomes the momentum others inherit tomorrow. The spiritual growth you maintain this year creates growth environment for others next year. The kingdom impact you generate this decade establishes kingdom culture for coming decades. Divine acceleration engineering builds generational momentum infrastructure. When someone traces their spiritual breakthrough back 6 months from now and finds your fingerprints on their miracle, will they discover that you sustained divine momentum long enough to become their catalyst? Or will they find the place where your acceleration died? Because now that unstoppable divine acceleration has been ignited within you, all this supernatural momentum will be sealed and transformed through prophetic prayer, locking your spiritual destiny into eternal acceleration that no force in hell can slow down. Something shifted in your spirit during this sacred hour together. I felt it from here. The forgotten bridge between realms didn't just awaken within you, it was permanently activated. The generational chains didn't just break, they were obliterated beyond repair. Your divine identity wasn't just discovered, it was officially authenticated by heaven itself. The eternal legacy wasn't just conceived, it was commissioned for immediate construction. Your spiritual family wasn't just revealed, they're being drawn to you by supernatural magnetism. Your kingdom assignment wasn't just downloaded, it was sealed with divine authorization that hell cannot revoke. You are no longer who you were when this journey began. Heaven has permanently sealed your new identity and commission. The person who started this video was carrying questions, wounds, and spiritual hunger. The person finishing this video carries divine credentials, supernatural authority, and eternal commissioning that transforms everything you touch from this moment forward. This isn't temporary inspiration that fades by tomorrow morning. This is divine notarization of spiritual metamorphosis that hell spent decades trying to prevent. For nearly an hour, your soul has been receiving throne room intelligence that most believers never access in a lifetime. Every revelation penetrated deeper than surface spiritual comfort because you have divine clearance for advanced kingdom operations. You weren't just watching a video. You were undergoing spiritual commissioning ceremony conducted through frequencies that bypass natural understanding and activate supernatural transformation. Before you do anything else, place your hand over your heart. Feel that steady rhythm. That's not just your heartbeat, that's the sound of a permanently commissioned kingdom operative whose assignment can never be revoked. You are no longer visitor in God's kingdom. You are family. Write these words somewhere you'll see daily. My assignment is irreplaceable. My identity is sealed. My family is eternal. This spiritual transformation process has permanently sealed divine identities across all 50 states, created unshakable spiritual commissioning that has survived every test and established divine family connections that function with supernatural unity. Your assignment has just been confirmed in heaven and on earth, not through human validation, but through divine commissioning that accesses throne room records of your eternal purpose. But this transformation isn't an ending. It's your divine graduation ceremony into assignments you haven't even imagined yet. Right now, heaven is already preparing your next level of spiritual intelligence. Your deeper kingdom missions, your expanded spiritual family connections. The supernatural momentum ignited within you contains divine acceleration that multiplies through every person you encounter, every prayer you pray, every kingdom operation you execute. You carry permanent credentials that demons recognize and angels salute. Your spiritual passport has been stamped with eternal authorization. Your kingdom clearance level grants access to assignments that require your exact divine signature. The commissioning activated today operates independently of your feelings, circumstances, or external validation. It's sealed in heaven's records as irrevocable divine appointment. The profound peace settling over your spirit right now isn't relief. It's divine confirmation. That deep sense of finally belonging isn't wishful thinking. It's supernatural recognition of your permanent placement in heaven's family system. The clarity emerging about your purpose isn't temporary inspiration. It's eternal assignment activation that guides your steps for decades to come. You've found your true spiritual home. Every video on this channel carries advanced kingdom intelligence specifically designed for commissioned operatives like you. Your spirit will guide you to exactly the spiritual training you need for your evolving assignments. The newest releases contain fresh revelation. The foundational teachings provide deep kingdom architecture. The prophetic messages deliver assignment updates. Trust your spiritual intuition completely. But your commissioning requires immediate activation through sacred covenant with this divine family. When you subscribe, you're not just joining a channel, you're accepting permanent membership in spiritual family and committing to receiving ongoing divine intelligence. When you comment, you're not just interacting, you're publicly confirming your spiritual transformation and commissioning activation. When you share, you're not just spreading content, you're accepting assignment as messenger carrying divine family invitations to other chosen ones still sleeping. Go to the channel now. Let your spirit choose your next divine encounter, the newest video, or any title that makes your soul quicken. That stirring you feel is direct communication from heaven's intelligence center. Don't overthink it. Don't analyze. Click what calls to your spirit. Heaven uses mysterious ways to deliver your next breakthrough, your advanced training, your deeper family connections. Your transformation today creates ripple effects through generations you'll never meet. The chains you broke liberate bloodlines for decades. The identity you activated gives permission for others to discover theirs. The legacy you began provides template for kingdom builders coming behind you. The family you joined expands through every soul you help awaken. The assignment you accepted creates infrastructure for revival movements you'll never see but helped birth. Tomorrow morning, you won't wake up the same person. Your dreams will carry prophetic intelligence. Your prayers will access deeper spiritual authority. Your conversations will release kingdom atmosphere. Your presence will shift spiritual climate in every room you enter. The divine commissioning sealed today operates permanently multiplying your spiritual impact beyond anything your natural mind can calculate. Now that your spiritual credentials have been permanently sealed in heaven's records, which divine assignment will you accept as your first official act as commissioned kingdom operative? Because this divine family is waiting to witness your transformation testimony, celebrate your breakthrough, and support your kingdom missions. We see you. Heaven sees you. You are not walking alone anymore. Your commissioning ceremony is complete. Your eternal credentials are sealed. Your divine family awaits your next move. Welcome home, permanently commissioned kingdom operative. Your assignments are just beginning.